One of the keys to just being successful as a virtual assistant and being able to kind of run in this digital marketing world is being able to sell yourself. And there are two key secrets to being able to do that.
What are you doing? What are your offers? Give us some insight to how you pivoted into this world.
This is where that, introvert side of me, I serve my own people basically. Cause it's like, oh, someone wants to ask me like a personal me question instead of like an about my service. I always kind of like shy away. I physically move and I laugh at myself for that because I know that so I can create a tool to kind of help. That's that key. It's that self-awareness. It's knowing when a butterfly in your stomach is a good thing versus I don't want to do this anymore thing. And kind of bringing in a bit more of that scientific side where you're tracking it and noticing after the emotion's over, looking back and thinking, wait, why did I feel that way? And what can I do about it? So what I do is basically I coach people through this. They're trying to figure out, well, this is the work that I do, but how do I say it? Because I'm afraid to seem like I'm bragging about myself.
Mhm.
How do I talk about all this great stuff? And how do I even showcase my testimonials when I'm like, oh, who, me? Oh, yeah. And we get kind of this little, like we physically shrink whenever these things are happening. And it's okay that you're like that. You don't have to change. You don't have to do 40 minutes of power stances a day in order to evolve into somebody that you're not. It's that kind of movement. So whether you're trying to write it, to say it, to just kind of figure out how to get comfortable in yourself. That's what I help people with. And so there is actually like a lovely little secret to being like embodying sales better. It's not like this, sexy answer, but it actually comes from knowing your offers better. The more that you know what it is that you're actually doing and providing, both in like a process standpoint, as well as what that outcome is, then the more you can just sit back and relax and listen when someone's trying to talk to you.
All that other stuff doesn't matter. It comes down to your pricing and your services and like
Mhm.
being very sure on that. I love it because ultimately knowing you can get out there and you can do the work and you can trust yourself to do the work.
That's the key part, trusting yourself, right? And that comes from feeling that completeness of you. It's hard for us to do that because if you've always felt awkward or if you've always felt like you're missing something, then it can be really hard to go in there and say, I know I'm really good at this and this is how I do it. And I can walk you through this exactly because you're going to get fill in the blank. Right?
Yes.
Because you're sitting there going, well, it's happened over and over again, but every single time I freak out, or every single time I have to, like use my security blanket. Every time I'm not sure because you haven't built that self-trust and that worthiness to give ourselves a little buzzword there that helps with that. Then I actually turned into a little mini course so people can do it on demand. It's called Boost the Value of Your Offer in a Day. And I intentionally use the word value because it's not about just upping your prices. It's not about, who has the grandest banner and can see all that. It actually, the exercise starts with peeling it back and seeing exactly like where you personally come face to face with all of the goodness that you do. So you can't back yourself out of feeling confident in it. And then how do you actually showcase that?
It's just part of the process because I always say, I can teach you the marketing, I can teach you the tech, I can teach you the strategy and the workflows, but ultimately it comes down this most important piece, the
Yeah.
confidence in yourself and
Yeah.
communicating that value.
It's about making that connection, right? Creating that
Yes.
relationship. I say that it's a relationship over a transaction. Think about whenever you're recommending your favorite book or the latest TV show that you have. You're not sitting here going, all right, today I'm going to go meet my friends and I'm going to tell them how much I love Stranger Things. It comes up in the conversation naturally because something sparks. And if the topic comes up, or it's like somebody says something or sings a song that makes you go, oh my gosh, do you remember when this happened? And oh, if you haven't watched it yet, you need to because of XYZ. And it's that same sort of energy and excitement and knowing it really, really well that you can actually do in your calls. That's actually selling.
Yeah.
You're just doing it from that very different centered place where you're not all in your head, but instead you are listening intently and reacting to the other person.
Where we get stuck is these new freelancers who are just starting and they're making that big switch. And having to communicate their value is probably like the biggest thing they need to work on, right? In that discovery call, or is there something else you can think of?
I mean, seriously, it's like, how many times does somebody interpret or directly hear why you? And you're like, oh my gosh, you're just asking me to validate my existence. It's that sort of kind of like deer in headlights moment that we get when we hear words like sales, when we're like, oh, you need to pitch yourself. But there's also kind of this vocabulary heaviness that comes on things. So in some ways, we need to keep it very pure and know that when somebody says connection call or coffee chat, that is nothing more than a peer-to-peer. We just want to get to know each other versus when it's a sales call, a discovery call, insert whatever somebody wants to call it these days call. It's like, let's have very clear intentions on it, but then be comfortable in ourselves enough to walk away from the labels. I don't want to like a discovery call, sales call, set an agenda. Connection call, don't. You're just there to chat and know each other. But how can you bring a little bit of that comfortable just getting to know each other into those other aspects so you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I now need to find a template. It's like I have to find these kind of other pieces because I now have this label that it is a sales call and I'm scared to do sales. So how do I do it right? And anytime you're asking yourself, how do you do it right? You're getting away from your own version of it and you're looking to an outside source, right? If you're starting to feel that uneasiness, you've gone too far and you need to step back and layer yourself onto the advice that you're looking at. What is it for you that makes you feel physically comfortable so you're not sitting there like messing with your shirt all the time or wondering what's happening or being like, oh, is my lipstick right? It's those kind of pieces that can make you forget about the external so you can pay attention to that connection and what's going on with you.
I like this whole topic. It's about you being natural and just building the trust and connection and from a place of honesty, like integrity, really.
It's finding that balance in yourself of what do you need to do. But it's those kind of pieces of, again, layering on that critical thinking of you. And being like, yeah, I might feel like I have to wear this or be this to fit in, but does it fit me?
What is your best tip for somebody who is new?
So the biggest thing is to remember it's not about you. It's a window, not a mirror. Like you're not looking at yourself, you're looking through to the other person the entire time. It's about their need, what they're after, listening to their concern, and then deciding whether or not it matches. It's not about you and getting through your set bullet points and seeing what happens. It's about letting the other person feel like they were heard and then parroting it back to them and making a very blatant connection between what they're asking for and what you can do for them.
Can you tease out a little bit about what we do inside the school with what you teach in those hours?
What we're looking at is it's like, well, what's that prep work about? Then what do I need to do to build in myself the ability to sit back and listen? How do I do like what's typically called active listening? Like, how can you parrot it back and use those words to make those blatant connections? And then how do you even do that close without feeling like, all right, now I'm going to sit here and sell you my shit. It's that kind of piece where how do I keep making it feel like I'm recommending a book? How does this feel like this is a natural segue to the conversation? And what happens afterwards? What do those pieces look like? And what does it mean to not nail it every single time?
Okay, so that leads me into what you said earlier about being able to articulate, communicate our value. So tell everyone about the freebie you have for us listeners.
I have a lovely little freebie that walks you through how to do that discovery call. What does prep look like? What does during the call look like? And how do you kind of marry those and then come into your own with that?
So our big tip today is for every single virtual assistant, digital marketing assistant, service provider listening to this, wanting to get better at sales calls, the big tip is to not make them about you anymore. Stop worrying about you. Really listen to the potential client on the other side of that Zoom video and pull out what they need.